All right, we're here. Twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live. Thanks so much for joining us on a Monday. Josh Doring, Chris Brown, they are here with me in the correct boxes on the overlay. Gentlemen, how you doing on a Monday?
Doing all right. Yeah, I would have been. I didn't actually, make any official predictions for these games over the weekend, but had I would have been 1 for 1. So I'm 1 for 1, one of two, one of two, 1 for 2, 1 for 2.
I
But
thought you were the baseball guy, Chris.
yeah, I can't speak apparently today. That's off to a great start. But yeah, we had some very interesting games. So it was certainly something to behold yesterday. I know you, Josh, you would have been 2 for 2, right? I understand you picked. Well, of course you picked the Bucs to win yesterday, right?
You know, my September 10th prediction was correct, and that's the one that really matters. But
Yeah.
on the show on Friday, I picked the Packers, so I have to own up to that mistake. Own up to the mistake that I made of betting against Tom Brady.
While also pointing out that you were in the end right.
Well, also pointing out, yes, because I made this point as well. I made that point as well that I couldn't be wrong this weekend because I've already made I made this Super Bowl prediction at the beginning of the playoffs too, so I did double down on it once. I didn't triple down on it when I got the opportunity to. So basking in my correctness a little bit this particular Monday morning, but no, I picked the Packers because I thought the Packers were gonna win the football game, and that was just Tom proved me wrong yet again, and I made a mistake. So no, I am a 1 for 2. I'm batting 500 this morning on my Friday predictions, but I'm basking in my batting 1,000 for the entire season.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's yeah. I forgot that you had picked that as your prediction back when we did them for the site before the season started. So that's quite impressive.
I'm absolutely basking.
Oh, you should be. Yeah, it's well deserved.
Yeah. Josh, how are you
It's
this
a
morning?
great feeling. It really is.
It really is, and I've realized that. So I posted the paragraph that I wrote on Twitter, and like it's in the ballpark of correct, but it's not really correct. Like I said, my justification for there's no analysis here really. My justification for the Chiefs was Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and until somebody stops them in the AFC, I'll stick with them, and that was intelligent. But then I said that, and even if the Bucs take a little while to figure it out, which they did, but I also don't feel like they're the best team in the NFC still. And I said I find it hard to believe they won't be one of the best teams in the sport. No, they might be one of the 4 or 5 best teams in the sport, which I guess could count as one of the best teams in the sport if healthy by the playoffs. But I feel like I'm implying like one of the 2 or 3 best teams, and I'm not sure that's the case. So it could be a little bit more like on the dot, on the nose, but the gist of it is right. And right, if it's the Patrick, I just decided not to overthink the AFC, and that definitely was the way to go at the, what are they now, 16-2 Chiefs, and that's with taking week 17 off. But yeah, I'm excited. Maybe I should switch to football. Maybe the primary sport should be football. Maybe that's the lesson here.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty much right there with you, Josh, specifically with the NFC Championship game, that I didn't feel like the Buccaneers won this as much as the Packers just gave it away.
100%.
You get 3 second half interceptions. You turn them into 6 points. And Tom Brady did what Tom Brady did against the Saints, which is every turnover that my defense creates is 7 points.
Yep.
It's a touchdown every time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially the difference in the game is that, I mean, Aaron Rodgers significantly outplayed Tom Brady. The one interception Rodgers threw was because his receiver got held. We'll get to that later, I'm sure. But the point being, it's not like he didn't show up. It's not like he had a stinker.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this innate ability that Tom Brady has, which is why I pointed to his record in conference championship games and the fact that Aaron Rodgers is now 1-4 when we were talking on Friday, as to me, that was the reason. If you're a Buccaneers fan or picking the Bucs, that's your justification.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a rationale. You can't say matchup wise, this is why. It's quite simply Tom Brady wins this game and Aaron Rodgers doesn't. And Brady threw 3 interceptions, and it still didn't matter because when push came to shove, he kind of executed better, and Aaron Rodgers just didn't execute enough to beat a Tom Brady-led team that is very talented, that has receivers that make plays, that has a defense that has been very good and, again, has the ability to make plays. They're just a good football team from a roster standpoint. And, of course, you have that added bonus of Tom Brady. But this is – and we were talking on Friday about, you know, the impact of this on Aaron Rodgers' legacy. And this is about as badly as it could have gone because it wasn't like he was going to go out there and perform horribly. He's Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
It almost makes it worse in the sense that this game was right there. His defense made 3 plays in the second half, gave him 3 extra possessions, or not extra possessions, but kept the Buccaneers off the board, gave them every opportunity in the world, and they just didn't score enough points, and they didn't execute in the red zone, which is something they've been really good at all season. It just is one of those things that happens to the Packers this time of year when you get deeper into the playoffs and the teams are comparable.
So everything you just said screams that Tom Brady did what executed that to the point to win the game, and Aaron Rodgers didn't, right? I mean, Tom Brady goes and scores in the red zone. They were 2 of 2 in the red zone. The Packers were 2 of 4. The Green Bay's defense had their bad half. Aaron Rodgers had his bad half instead of in terms of execute. I mean, he wasn't horrible in the second half, and they technically. Right, and they had more points in the second half than they did in the first, but they had more opportunities to score points in the second half than they did in the first. Green Bay's running game wasn't there. I mean, the most important thing that Aaron Jones did in this game was fumble the football, right? He had 27 yards rushing. Nobody had more than 2070. They only rushed the ball 16 times across 3 different players, so they were putting the ball in his hands. I mean, of course, until they needed to put the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands. But you can't spot Tampa Bay 28. I mean, I think this would have been worse if the game was super close at halftime. Right, if you're looking for a way, Josh, for this to be worse for Aaron Rodgers, is if the game is 14-10 or 17-14
Sure.
or 13-10 at halftime, and it's really you versus Brady in the second half, and whoever executes better is going to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Brady put them in a position to not have to execute in the second half, right? And that's whether it's him being absolutely electric down the stretch like he was against the Saints. I mean, he played a really, really good second half against the Saints, or it's putting his team so far ahead in the first half that you've got room to maneuver, and the Bucs defense made enough plays, right, to keep the Packers off the scoreboard enough. He finds some way to put his team in a good position, whether it's in the first half and building a big lead, or like he did against the Saints, where he's just the better quarterback in the second half. But yeah, I didn't come away feeling like. I mean, the Bucs dominated the first half. That definitely happened, but I came away feeling like the Packers had more than enough chances in the second half to put enough points up on the board, and it wasn't just the penalty that kept them from winning this game. They kept themselves from winning this game by not executing at other points during the game.
100%, and they they put themselves in that situation coming out of halftime by what happened in the first half, and that was one of the things that led to their margin of error being what it was. Like you could look at the second half alone and say there were a ton of opportunities, and then you factor into that they put themselves in that position coming out of the half by the horrible defense that they showed in the first half and not capitalizing on mistakes in the first half and then again in the second half in certain situations. They have this is now two conference championships in a row that have been huge letdowns, huge disappointments, huge just failures from that defense. Last year was the 49ers just like laughably destroying them in the running game. This year, right, we see the horrendous blown coverage situation to end the first half. Two times in the fourth quarter, they end up getting penalized for
Yeah, you
12
can't
men
let
on the
that happen.
12 men on the field, and it wasn't because the Bucs were trying to rush. It was because they were trying to make late substitutions and mix like just mistakes you cannot have happen. And so there's so many ways like you could say that they right, I'm with you that you can't even look right. There are a few big calls which we're going to talk about, I'm sure, here momentarily from the end of the game, whether it be from officials, from Matt LaFleur, that are obviously major factors, but right, there are you can count on probably take you two hands to count the number of other instances in this game where the Packers had opportunities and chances and they failed to capitalize or they failed to execute on something that there's just simply no excuse not to. And yeah, credit. I just want to say this too before we'll actually get, I'm sure, to the end of the game. Is a credit to the Bucs defense, like you guys said, because this is really the first time all year that I think to this degree we've seen a team really batter the Packers offensive line, right? With
Mm-hmm.
Shaquille Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, they were
And they did
huge
it
game
twice.
changers, and they did it twice, and they combined for 5 sacks. And like when Brady was, when obviously he had those interceptions in the second half, the Bucs defense picked him up a couple of times. It wasn't like it was a spotless defense. It wasn't perfect, but it forced a couple of 3 and outs in key moments when Brady had those turnovers were happening, those interceptions. So real credit to the Bucs defense there and those electric playmakers that they have as well.
Right, and one
Yeah.
of the touchdowns that they gave up was a complete result of McCall Hardman not being able to catch a punt, right? So, right, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we could have been, I mean, this game seemed, these two teams seemed really far apart at halftime, and that was with Green Bay getting handed a defensive touchdown. Oh, sorry. No, what
That
am I
was the other
doing?
game.
Oh, that was
I'm
it.
sorry. I woke
Can't
up
say, can't
12
say.
minutes ago. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's that I lied. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. Um yeah, you don't see the Green Bay Packers offensive line. I was so excited to come in here and talk about McCole Hardman and his bounce back. Um
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, you don't see Green Bay and they did it and stopped the run as well. Like they were able
Right.
to do both. Devin White is going to be the next most important defensive player in the NFL. I texted Josh that during the game yesterday. He's just all over the place and always seems to be in the
Mm-hmm.
right position, right? He didn't force that fumble on Aaron Jones, but he was there to pick it up. He always seems to be that. He's either forcing the fumble or is the guy recovering the fumble every time there's a fumble for the Bucs defense, it feels like, or he's picking up a ball off in an important spot or whatever it is, but it's but at the end of the day, this game ultimately came down to the last 60 seconds of each half, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
you let Scotty. First of all, the round 6 connection there. Scotty Miller, a 6th-round pick out of Bowling Green, so the 6th-round connection there between Tom Brady and Scotty Miller. But it came down to that when literally the only thing you can't do there is let somebody beat you deep, right? Because if
Mm-hmm.
they don't score there, they get a field goal, right? And
Maybe.
Yeah.
my point being is that
Yeah.
even
Worst
even
case
if you
scenario,
give
yeah.
up a 30-yard pass play,
Right.
just keep
Right.
them in front of you, and all they
Yeah.
get is a touchdown, and it's still a one-score game, right? Because I believe it was 14-10 at the time. I believe
I
that's
think
right.
that's right. I
Because the
think
score
so.
was 21-10 at halftime, so I believe it was
Yeah.
14-10.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's either 17-10 or it's 21-10, right? Or it's 14-10 or 17-10 if you just keep them in front of you. Give up 30 yards, just don't give up a
Mm-hmm.
touchdown there. And watching the replay, he didn't even get touched. It's like they just didn't I believe it was Kenny Clark who was guarding him, right? Maybe not.
I think it was Kevin King.
Kevin King, sorry. Same letters. I mean, same.
Yeah.
Kevin King. Excuse me. Kevin King. It's like he didn't expect Tom Brady to actually throw the football. I mean, he was just sort of backpedaling, like, kind of, yeah. It was like he was expecting him to not, take a shot there and, like, risk it being picked off or something, but it didn't look like he was playing defense on the play. It looked like Scotty Miller was just a decoy, and he knew he was a decoy because they were running the football or a screen pass on the other side of the field. That's literally the only thing you can't let happen there. And not only did you let it happen, he was wide open, completely wide open.
Mm-hmm.
It was right. That was without that. I mean, the math is very simple in the sense that if without that, the Packers win this game. If you look at it from a let's take 7 points away from the Buccaneers perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can talk about the end of this game if you'd like to, in a minute. But the last 60 seconds of each half were massive and ultimately determining the outcome.
And that's sort of the point that I know you came to as well, Josh. Was that a hold on Sean Murphy-Bunting's interception? Yeah. But also that didn't result in 7 points. That resulted in the Buccaneers having the ball at the end of the half there with an opportunity. Green Bay gave up the 7 points.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it was a punt or an interception. It's not like Tampa Bay got the ball in the red zone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And was handed points the way that the Bills were when McCole Hardman dropped that punt. So getting on the referees it's not the ultimate point of this game. The Packers still failed to execute.
Mm.
And yeah, so let's go to the end now. I didn't hate the kick the field goal as much as everybody else seemed to. I didn't like it, but I understood the logic to a certain extent because they looked pretty bad on those 3 plays from the 8-yard line or whatever it was. It wasn't like it was 4th and 1. Now, I still would have gone for it, for the reason that you tweeted and you and I were talking about, Josh, which was very simply that either you're ceding control of the game to Tom Brady and the officials, and Chris, you tweeted something like this too, now that I'm thinking about it, or you're keeping control of the game in Aaron Rodgers' hands. Mm-hmm. So then all of a sudden, because you don't try to get all 8 points right there, A, you let Brady have a chance to run out the clock, and B, you open the door for the possibility of something like that pass interference being called. Was it pass interference? Yes. Do I feel all that bad for the Packers? No. My frustration is more generally just with the concept, because I want to get this part out because this irks me. This is what happens when you just go tell everybody, let them play. That philosophy infuriates me because it creates an inconsistency, which then when you call a play like that, all of a sudden you haven't called anything all game, and now you're going to call a decisive pass interference penalty. Again, it was pass interference, but it was also holding on the interception. There were other examples too. From a player perspective, I have to think that this goes into, for example, the thought process Devontae Adams had when I think it was Carlton Davis. He just ran off the line of scrimmage and shoved him because they weren't calling anything.
Mm-hmm.
As a player, all I want is to know what the referees are going to do. If you're not calling anything, I'm going to hold and grab people all day. Your incentive, it goes back to the same thing that you and I talk about on our podcast with basketball and the block charge. I don't want anybody incentivizing bad defense, whether it's because everybody gets called for charges, even if you're playing bad defense just because it looks bad when the guy runs you over, even though it's a blocking foul, or it's in this situation where don't try and guard the guy, just grab him because you're not getting penalized all game.
Right.
Again, it's not the story, it's not the outcome, but just that part of it irks me. That's why you can't just let guys play and let them determine the game. You got to set some boundaries here and actually make people play defense.
It's my least favorite part of officiating. That part of officiating is making a decision whether or not you're going to let the rules not be followed for the entire game, because you're welcome to be as mad as you want to. You being anybody and everybody on Twitter, you're welcome to be angry. But it was off defensive pass interference. It was. He grabbed two handfuls of jerseys. He did it twice. He had it in his left hand, and then he let go and grabbed it with his right hand again. And so, and to your point, Josh, all the refs letting them play like that does is put them in this kind of position where the ref made the right call.
Right.
Somebody, I get the frustration isn't what frustrates me. The frustration from other people isn't what frustrates me. It's the people who are saying that's not pass interference. Yes, it is. Right? And I'm sorry, but I'm never gonna be mad about the right call being made in a game, regardless of how many times they have or haven't made the right call in the game. I don't give a damn what they called with 7:42 in the second quarter, because listen, if it's the other way around and Aaron Rodgers goes down and scores and win this football game, then we're talking about it the other way around, right? I mean, are we not? This morning we'd be talking about.
Yeah.
Remember when King grabbed a handful of the jersey on that third down, and it was 100% pass interference, but they didn't call it again, and they got to go down and score? That's what we would be talking about. I couldn't care less what they were calling the rest of the game, to be honest with you. I want the right calls made at the end of games, and that was the right call. And the Packers don't deserve a chance to win that game on Matt LaFleur's play calling like a wuss. He was.
Yeah.
You've got Tom Brady, the officials, your defense, and Aaron Rodgers. Those are your four choices to put the game in the four choices to put the game in their hands. There's an obvious choice if you're Matt LaFleur, and he didn't do it. He didn't do it. He should be fired for letting Aaron Rodgers watch the game end on the sideline. He should be fired for it. I mean, I'm not really being serious when I say that, but you made the wrong decision in the most important decision of the football game. Why is Aaron Rodgers your quarterback? Why are you paying him that much money to not make that play? Go pay Bryce Love for, $1.6 million a year. Jordan Love, whatever. Bryce Love's the basketball. No, Bryce Love's the Georgia quarterback. I'm pretty sure there's a Bryce Love playing quarterback somewhere. Is that the backup for Alabama? There's somebody. No. Who's the Alabama backup right now? The 5-star.
No, I'm blanking on his name.
I'm looking it up right now. The point is
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young.
I think. That's okay. I got you.
The point is, if you're not going to pay the guy millions of dollars to make the biggest play of the game, then pay your quarterback $14 a game so that you can put your money on the defensive side of the football, or put your money in the officiating's pocket so that you can get those calls. The Packers deserve to lose that game if they're going to play call like that. They do. That's why you go for the 8 points, because something like this can happen. Something like this can happen. The officiating can make the right call, even though they've been making the wrong call all game. And also it's Tom frickin' Brady. And Aaron Rodgers has got his hands stuffed in a jacket and a beanie on as the clock is going to 0. And didn't get a chance to keep the game alive beyond that. That's also why I can't feel bad for the Packers, because you didn't act like you were actually trying to win this game. You were acting like you were trying to not lose it, which doesn't make sense when you decide to get less points and actually remain losing with a minute. It's not like there were 3.5 minutes left and Brady had to go and get 6 first, and actually put a drive together.
You were talking about
he needed one maybe 2 first downs.
Right.
That's just too much to ask for a defense that is solid but not incredible. And I guess maybe you're hoping that he picks him off the 4th time, but why in the heck would he throw the football on that drive? Like, Um, yeah, okay. I'm done raging. I'm done ranting. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page with you. And this analogy I'm about to make isn't a perfect analogy by any means. I'm sure there's some holes in it, but right when it comes to, I guess first off, just right the call itself, um, and that pass interference call,
His
right?
name is Bryce Young, by the way.
Bryce Young. There you go.
Yeah.
Bryce Young.
If you are driving the same commute from home to work every day, and on the same stretch of interstate,
Oh, I like it.
and every day you see that it's a hot spot for where police cars are going to be parked on the side of the road. Almost every day you see some car parked on the side of the road, and then you see you're going about a little over the speed limit, just like 5 over, and you see people start going 20 over the speed limit consistently, and then you decide you're going to go 20 over the speed limit because they're not getting pulled over. Day after day you see cops and you go 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, and it works, and you do that for a week or two, and then one day you get pulled over. I mean, you can't use the fact that everybody was doing it that they weren't enforcing 20 miles an hour over the speed limit as a reason why you shouldn't get a ticket. It sucks in that there's like a lack of consistency, but right, just because other people were doing and getting away with it, and just because you were doing it and getting away with it for some period of time, doesn't mean that you can use that as a defense when you get caught for it.
I think, to me, there's a difference between using it as a defense and being more inclined to be aggressive defensively because they're not calling it.
That's not aggressive. That's bad defense. That's
Sure.
not
Oh,
aggressive.
Yeah.
That's bull crap to call that aggressive defense. It was bad defense. He got beat and grabbed the jersey. There's a difference between being physical and being stupid and being beat.
Right.
That was
right.
And there's also a difference on that play too, right? I mean, King got beat.
Yeah,
That's why he grabbed the jersey.
Well, I was talking more generally, right? That play, that was all he could do.
Right.
I'm not saying that he made it.
I mean, he got beat, so he broke the rules, right? It happened after, not like he went to that play thinking, I'm going to be aggressive. He went to that play thinking, I got beat, so I'm going to break the rules.
I got to do something, and
I got to do something.
Right. Yeah. I'm not saying that. I'm not.
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about that play in particular.
No.
Okay.
No, but just.
Yeah.
I think there is a validity to the idea that if I'm not getting called for things, I'm just more likely to get more and more aggressive and see what I can get away with. But again, right,
generally speaking, yeah.
That play, I don't think that play had all that much bearing on the rest of the game in terms of his thought process, because they had to make a stop, and if he's wide open, you have to do what you have to do to try and hope that you get away with it. Right. But just generally, that frustrates me, and it's again more of a bigger philosophical point about just officiating in general. If you give the players something to adjust to and then stick with it. But again, that's I don't feel bad for the Packers for all the reasons we've talked about. And it's a valid analogy, right? I don't want to hear, well, they were getting away with it, so that makes it okay. I mean, he grabbed that gets called a no-brainer every single time. I'm with you that the analogy, you can't use that as an excuse.
Right.
It's just frustrating to me that this is the result of let them play. Let's set some boundaries. But that's a larger point. Yeah, not particular to that King play.
Right. And I guess I was just so, like, I had to, like, walk up to the TV screen really close because I thought when they decided to kick that field goal, there has to be 3 minutes in, I don't know, what is it, 10 seconds or whatever? Whatever it was, 2:08. I thought it had to be 4:08 or 5:08 or 3:08 at least. That's the part that just, right? Because, again, you just hit on it, but that's the thing that stood out to me the most. Like, you're not asking your defense to stop Tom Brady in that offense sometime in the next 5 minutes on their way down the field and stop them, before they score a touchdown or before they kick a field goal. You have to stop them right away. You have to get the stop one, maybe only give them maybe one first down, right? You don't have the margin for error. It's not even that you're right. It's not only that you're putting your confidence in your offense, your defense, and the officiating working the way you want it to, and Tom Brady not, doing what he's done his entire career. And you're also asking it to happen very quickly. Your margin for error is just so small for not even your margin for error for your defense, the margin for error for the officials, for Brady, for all these things, all has to go exactly your way, rather than you deciding that right. It's the same thing we're going to talk about in the next game here in a minute, is that one team decided that they wanted to one team took control of the game. The other team was content not trying to fight for it back.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, right, it comes down to what Josh said a minute ago, which Rich Eisen tweeted. He said, "I know much will be made of that last flag, but one team decided to risk it at the end of the first half with their GOAT and got the biscuit. One team decided not to risk it at the end of the second half with their GOAT and did not get the biscuit." That's the story of the night. And I feel like that sums it up.
Yeah,
And
it's really nice.
it's also
I want a biscuit
interesting
now.
to go back, because the other part that gets lost of this is if you don't go for two and you kick the extra point, it's a different situation. Because then I believe you're within, or no, it's 7, not 8.
Mm-hmm.
Am I doing
They
that
need
math
they
right?
need
Yeah, they didn't get
the
the
extra
extra
points to tie it.
Right,
but
missed the
they
two-point
had
conversion.
they missed a 2-point conversion early in the game.
Right, they
yeah.
would have put it within 3. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then the Buccaneers kicked another field goal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is the compounding effect of the argument of don't chase points. Because there's a very logical argument to say, look, it's 5, we can get it to 3.
Mm-hmm.
But by getting it to 4, then if you lose those 3 points, it's 7, not 8. And at that point, to me, there's no justification not to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
The only justification in my mind, again, I don't agree with it. I'm with both of you that ultimately I want control of the game when I have Aaron Rodgers and I'm paying him that money. But having to convert that play that was no guarantee and then get the 2-point conversion, it makes the odds less likely, obviously. So there's some justification for saying we're going to take our shot the next time and hope we get one. Again, I don't agree, but that's also part of this equation is sometimes if you just take the points instead of trying to chase them and put yourself in a great position right away, despite what the analytics tell you, it puts you in a better position moving forward. Looking at it just from the current situation you're in, it doesn't take into account what could happen later on and what that means for you come the end of the game.
Right. I mean, and it's not like a field goal there gets you within 3. That's the thing that was driving me crazy is that it doesn't change the next possession. The field goal doesn't change the next possession. You still need a touchdown. And and it's not like you had been walking all over Tampa Bay's defense. I mean, they scored plenty of points, but I think we're on agreement that based on the mistakes that Brady made in the second half, they should have scored more points than they scored.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So it's not like you had been walking all over the defense and going back down the field was a foregone conclusion.
Right. What's your best case scenario? You get the ball back with a very little amount of time, and you've got a couple plays before you're sending Hail Marys down the field.
Right. And even if it's perfect, even if you play that possession perfectly, Rodgers has 75 seconds from the 15, something like that. It's either the 15 or a touchback, right? Depending on what how far the punt is. If they do that the best that they possibly can, you're asking Rodgers to go 75 yards in a game that he doesn't win usually with the season on the line, or you could just try to score from the 4-yard line or the 6 or whatever it was. I certainly see right, and scoring a touchdown to win the game is attractive, but it just the journey from point A to point B there has so many hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like the 6 yards was less of a hurdle to get over, or scoring essentially on 2 straight plays was a smaller hurdle to get over than the hurdle they tried to clear and ultimately weren't able to. Let's take a 60-second break or so, and then we'll come back and talk about the Chiefs. You're watching 110 Daily on the 110 Sports Network.